and welcome to the Phoenix Cinema Podcast. I am Chris Austin, and joining me is nobody. It is just me today. You're stuck with me. The reason for that is because Ian is still lost in the woods, and Luke wasn't able to watch this movie. It's weirdly... We've scheduled it at a time when the movie is kind of leaving the theatres and in that sort of halfway house between leaving the cinema and becoming available on VOD or on a streaming platform or what have you. So he wasn't able to watch the movie. However, I didn't want to make it a lost cause having seen the film myself. So I thought, let me jump on this podcast and just share my thoughts on it. So, this is a podcast where we discuss what's showing at the Phoenix Cinema in East Finchley. And this week, we're discussing Josh Margolin's feature debut, Thelma. So, I watched this movie, Thelma. I had heard about the movie for a while, and the Phoenix were showing this movie for quite a while, actually. It was a good few weeks that they kept this movie on. So I thought, cool, let's watch it. And I really enjoyed it. It's such a fun, but also sweet movie. So the film is a comedy action thriller with June Squibb in the lead role. 96-year-old June Squibb in the lead role. She plays Thelma, and she gets scammed. A phone scammer scams her out of, $10,000, I believe it is. And she decides to take action and track the scammers down and dish out her version of justice and vengeance. And you have a great supporting cast in the movie. You have her nephew, played by the actor Fred Heckinger. Never seen him before, I don't think. Young actor. But then you have his parents, played by Clark Gregg and Parker Posey, who are great. You have a wonderful actor, Richard Roundtree, as well. And you also have Malcolm McDowell show up in the movie. Like I said, I mean, it's really enjoyable. It moves at such a good pace. And again, the fact that there is a 96-year-old actor, June Squibb, who can headline a movie and be given a showcase. I mean, that to me is just, it feels so inspiring. And, it gives actors like myself hope. I'm 35 years old, and, it does make you think, well, if I hang in there, I could foreseeably, if I don't make it now, then, I can be 96 years old and maybe star in a movie. So that's a lovely thought. That's a lovely thought in and of itself. The score to this film is really good. You have this composer, Nick Chuba, who does this really cool kind of... it's like a really propulsive action score. He really... The tone of the entire movie is set by this composer. It's really, really great music. In fact, I feel like Nick Chuba's name has popped up recently. I can't remember where I saw it. I saw it in like some credits to something, and I was like, oh, is that Nick Chuba that composed Thelma? I can't remember. But as I speak, I'm going to look him up and see where that happened. So looking at Nick Chuba's credits, oh, wow, he composed the score to the Shogun series. Okay, I didn't know that. Haven't seen it, but it's on my list, and I know it got rave reviews. Okay, so he's done so many... Oh my goodness. Oh, and that's where it is. That's where I saw him. So he's not just a composer, but he has worked in so many different departments. Score engineering, supplying additional music, part of the music team. I don't know what that is. For so many projects. And one of them is Watchmen. The TV series Watchmen from 2019, shall I say limited series, because it was a one and done. Excellent. I literally, just before I jumped onto this podcast, rewatched the final episode of that because it's amazing. And it's created by Damon Lindelof, who is, I think, my favourite writer. So, yeah, love that show. I thought I saw his name somewhere. So he was part of the music team on Watchmen. He was the score engineer on the movie Soul, which I loved, the Pixar movie Soul. Mank, the David Fincher movie. He did the theme music to Shining Girls, a TV series I never watched with Elizabeth Moss. And The Crow, that remake that came out this year, he did additional music for that. So the guy works, the guy really, that's great. He really gets himself out there, it looks like. And like I said, it's a good, fun score. Really enjoyed it. This film really just makes you, I'm so scared of getting old. Can I say that? I am so scared of getting old. I don't know. I mean, aren't we all? But it's a very worrying thing when you just you feel like you're just losing sense of your faculties. Like your body will just fail you one day. Just doing simple things like walking is dangerous. And if you trip and fall, there may be no way of getting back up, as happens in this movie. The movie is also a lovely commentary on age, on old age, and just exploring what that means. But also what I love about it is just taking ownership. Yes, getting old is scary. And yes, you will see, if you are, I suppose, fortunate enough to live to a ripe old age, you will lose people in your life. But it doesn't mean you can't continue to live. And it doesn't mean you can't continue to have great adventures, great friendships, and still have a great family, So I love all of that. It's scary to think about aging. But I like that this film kind of twists it as well, and also, has a sentimental side to it as well. I really like that. This film also makes me think about, I've been thinking about old age very recently. I visited my grandparents, who are Portuguese. They live in Portugal. And yeah, it was, it's a funny thing. So the last time I saw them was 14 years ago. It was 2010, which was the last time I took a vacation to Portugal. My mother's Portuguese, so my mother's parents, and I have a strong connection to that country and this tiny little village, Vilarinho, where my mother and my mum's side of the family are from. I have moved all my life. It's honestly just wherever I lay my hat, that's my home. I've moved constantly in my life. Before I continue, sorry if there's any background noise here. I've got people moving in downstairs. I live in a flat. No one's lived downstairs for the last year and a half that I've been here. I've been very fortunate. That changes today. So apologies if there's any background noise. That's out of my control at the moment. Anyway, as I was saying, so strong connection to Portugal. I used to go there every single year on vacation in the summer. It was just a ritual. The summer would come along, and me and my family, we'd go to Portugal, and it would be this, amazing vacation, and we'd meet up. All the family would meet up, so many aunts and uncles, cousins, and my grandparents' home, was the major hub on this vacation. It was where we all gathered, and it's an old home, and you've got a lovely view of like this just land surrounding you, and we'd go for these walks down to this river. We'd pick berries and fruit. It's truly special. But anyway, I'd go there every single year, just kind of like a ritual. And then I didn't go back after 2010. I don't know why. I just life. I guess I got plans. I became really ambitious, as you should be. I was 22, 23 when I was last there. And that was 2010, 2011. Instead of going back to Portugal, I went on a cruise, a Caribbean cruise with my family in honor of my grandfather on my dad's side, who passed away. And my grandmother did too, just a few years before that. And he was meant to be on the cruise. So I went in honor of him, and, it was lovely. And then the year after that, I moved to New York. I decided to take the plunge and actually, do something about my dreams of wanting to become an actor. And I auditioned for this acting conservatory in New York. I got it, and I went out there, and it was a whole journey. It was a whole experience, and made so many friends. I ended up getting married, and then divorced, and then moving back. And, all told, I was like back and forth between London and New York for about 5 years. And so all of this to say, a lot happened in my life. A lot. And it's no excuse, but I kind of neglected, going back to Portugal and visiting my grandparents. And in that time that I was away, my grandmother, we call her avó. Avó is grandmother in Portuguese. Avô is grandfather. She developed dementia. So I went back to Portugal this year, 2024, 14 years. And in 14 years, it's a long time. I went back, and my mother's now looking after them. It's like, they're carer, so they can stay at home. And I went back, and it was sad, because my grandmother no longer recognizes me. And I used to be, God, I was the apple of her eye. I mean, she loved me. She loved me. And I always felt that. I always felt like I was special in my grandmother's eyes, and my grandfather as well. Communication has always been difficult, because learning the language of Portuguese was something I never fully invested in doing. Again, it's ignorance, sure. Laziness, listen, I'll cop to that. That's a big flaw of mine. But I've grown up with my mother, my mother's Portuguese, and she would converse with her family all the time. And so I understand more than I let on, and I can maybe even speak a little bit more than I think I can. But am I fluent? Absolutely not. So I've grown up my whole life never being able to really have a full back and forth conversation with my grandparents, which is sad, and I wish that was different. And and now that the chance for that to happen has really been taken away, because now my grandmother doesn't recognize me. She has no idea who I am. And I think it was really sad, and I felt really guilty, actually. I felt really guilty about never checking in, about never not even bothering to show up, to call even if I can't communicate well, to call or whatever. You know, in 14 years, a lot can happen. They could both be dead. I could have lost both of them. My grandfather knows who I am, but she doesn't. And so, you know, the reason I'm saying this is because, you know, this movie, Thelma, is about this 96-year-old woman and who's, to be fair, her faculties are very much intact. She has a sharp mind still, and, you know, God bless her. She's so lucky for that. But yeah, it just made me think, you know, family is so important, and there's so much about family that is just, I don't know, can be so difficult. But I just think a movie like this also makes you think, you know, you need to keep the ones you cherish in your life close. You need to hold them close and cherish every moment you get together, because you know, life is like that. Everything's normal today, and tomorrow everything can change. But you know, it was lovely to visit them. It was lovely to just be there, even if she doesn't know who I am, to just spend time with them. And it's so funny, you know, being in Portugal and being in this, you know, where my mother's from, where my family's from, being there at 23 years old and then being there at 35 is a very different, you just look at things differently. And this time I felt so much pride in where I'm from and where my roots are from. So much pride. I think it's a beautiful place, the north of Portugal. It's not very far, maybe half an hour drive, maybe less, to the border of Spain. I love it. The food. Oh my goodness, the food. Don't even get me started. The food in Portugal is just, it's on another level. It's sublime. The people are so wonderful, friendly. The weather was too hot. And then, so it was also lovely too, because I took my girlfriend with me, and it was the first time she'd ever been to this part, you know, and seeing where I've spent a lot of my childhood. So it was so nice to sort of experience it through her eyes as well. It gave me even more of a newfound appreciation for it. But yeah, and then we spent a few some days in Porto, because it's about 2-hour drive, and that's where we fly in and out of anyway. And Porto is just a beautiful, magical city. So all of that being said, love your grandparents. Make sure you're there, and make sure you spend as much time with them as you can. So that's it. It's just it's a long-winded way of just saying what you know this movie made me think of, and I recommend it. It genuinely is. It's a fun time. It's a funny film, and it's good. There's a really neat scene in this where, you know, in the interests of, like, you know, aping an action movie, this old cop, you know, Thelma and this character, a friend of hers, played by, I believe it's Richard Roundtree, is the actor's name. They attempt to sort of do a bit of like spy work and infiltrate this place where they believe the scammers are operating out of, and they have this great moment where they use their hearing aids and the app that they use for their hearing aids to communicate with each other. And I thought that was so cool, you know, in place of, like, you know, earpieces, in this tense, potentially dangerous situation. Such a cool use of hearing aids. It's excellent. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm sorry that this isn't more of an in-depth discussion. I don't have my people with me on this one, but I still wanted to get this out there, so that, yeah, I can just still recommend this movie. When it comes to a pairing, I would pair this movie with The Beekeeper. The Beekeeper was a movie that came out this year as well. I watched it. shall I say I watched some of it. I did turn it off because I thought it was rubbish. However, it's really interesting that Thelma came out the same year as The Beekeeper, because they're basically the complete flip sides of each other. They would pair together so magnificently well, because The Beekeeper is the serious version of Thelma. The Beekeeper is directed by David Ayer. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. You know, huge director. Training Day, The Fast and the Furious, SWAT, End of Watch, or, you know, all these. He's a big action director. Fury, that World War II movie. And he directed this action movie starring Jason Statham. And in this movie, The Beekeeper, Jason Statham is like this retired, I don't know, government agent who his code name is like his code name, he's part of a group called Beekeepers. They're like a mysterious group. And he's also a beekeeper. So that's the subtlety of this movie. But he tends to bees, and he lives on this land of like this retired school teacher. He like lives in her barn, and he's got this really warm friendship with her, and she looks after him, and she's this wonderful old lady, and she gets scammed. She falls for this phishing scam. It bankrupts her. It steals her life savings, and she's so distraught about it, she kills herself. Really sad. Really, really sad. However, what it does is it provides impetus for Jason Statham to go and fuck some shit up. And he goes after them and just rains hellfire and just goes on this rampage against these scammers. It's a very 2024 kind of movie. And I love it. If you think about it in the context of this film. Because let me tell you, Thelma in this movie don't need no Jason Statham to go and kick ass for her. No, she will do it herself. So I think Thelma is certainly the better movie. But I think if you watch these two films back to back, it almost makes the Beekeeper play better, because it makes it even funnier in a way, because it's so sincere and it's so serious about itself. So anyway, that's it. That's me. Thank you for listening. If you listened, it's okay if you didn't. I won't take it personally. A special thanks to the Phoenix Cinema. Our music, as always, is by Stefan Krieger, who's my brother, by the way. Boom! Didn't expect that, did you? Just dropping a truth bomb on you right at the end of this episode. And our episodes, as always, are edited by Noah Anderson. Hopefully I'll be joined again by my regulars, Ian and Luke, hopefully on the next episode, but who knows? You never know. We'll roll with it. We'll see what happens. Thank you all for listening. And as always, ladies and gents, if you want to go and watch a film, head to the Phoenix Cinema. I will meet you there.